Hello everyone and welcome to our very first Warhammer Age of Sigmar Realms of Ruin live stream. I'm Arthur, one of the community team here at Frontier, and I'm joined for the first time ever by the wonderful Phil. Say hello, Phil.
Hi everyone, I'm Phil.
So we're very excited about today.
We are.
And we're a little bit nervous because it's your first live stream, isn't it? First live stream ever. And you're a huge Age of Sigmar fan. So this is a good one to
Vale, ya creo que se ve escuchar más alta la voz. Bueno, simplemente por ahora están presentando, ¿no? Bueno, bienvenidos a la presentación. Vamos a hacer nuestro primer stream de Age of Sigmar.
Is my faction.
Oh, blimey, right, okay.
I'm a big fan of death and destruction. So.
Oh, okay, so I'm glad I'm sitting next to you then. That's great, that makes me feel a lot safer.
Este hombre dice que es un gran fan de muerte y de destrucción.
Talk about, obviously, our wants and our needs and our desires. We're here to show you something quite special. So, for those of you who missed it, on the PC Gaming Show, we premiered the gameplay trailer for Age of Sigmar.
Sí, que aquellos que se lo habían perdido ya habían hecho una preview en el PC Gaming Show que hemos enseñado en el canal. Y me imagino que van a enseñar ahora ese trailer ahora mismo otra vez.
Peggy 16. Commander, there is the stench of death about this place, not just from the Oryx.
Death comes for everyone. Eventually. Except us. Fortify our position. We must claim this swamp.
Enemy sighted.
Sneaky does it.
Sigmar, give me strength!
Think it's time for a fight, boys! Wah! Protect the bastion! We need the loot! Like flies to a corpse! They always come!
Aiden, I will take the fight to the Auric Warlord. You hold here.
Fate conspires against us both.
Not fate. Duty.
Get him!
Pues efectivamente el trailer que ya pudimos ver en el PC Gaming Show hace unos días. Y ahí, como veíais, os comentaba antes, la beta abierta comienza el 7 de julio, del 7 al 10 de julio. Esperamos estar ahí para poder enseñarla y hablar de ella.
All right, I think that's fair to say it's a fairly exceptional trailer, Phil. I was enjoying the comments. Particularly enjoyed Evil Dobby that was in there. So thank you, chat. We can see you, by the way. Hello to everyone in chat for joining us. But today we've got even more to talk about, loads more to talk about, in fact. And we can't do that on our own, can we, Phil?
We can't, no.
So we actually have two very special guests. So welcome. The wonderful Philippa and the wonderful Sandro. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
He subido el volumen otra vez, lo había bajado para el vídeo, no me di cuenta.
I know you're no stranger to live streams, but for the benefit of the audience, the wider audience, can you go through who you are and
Se debería escuchar bien la voz ahora, ¿verdad?
Starting with Philippa.
Right, okay. Hi, I'm Philippa. I'm an animation programmer. What that means is that I'm not actually an animator, but what I do is I write code that basically adds sort of procedural animation and physics-driven simulation to the work that our animators do to make it more responsive to the game environment.
That sounds incredibly complex. I was getting confused as you spoke, but it sounds like you have a really important job, Philippa.
Está hablando de importante y complicado su trabajo de programadora de animación, sin más.
Sandy, what about yourself?
Hello, I'm Sandy. I'm a principal designer at Frontier. I've been here a long time.
Sandy, que es un diseñador principal de Frontier, de la empresa que hace este juego.
Realms of Ruin.
Small role then. You've got a small role in there.
Yeah. Well, luckily.
Que tiene un rol importante. Bromean con que es un rol pequeño, pero obviamente es un rol importante.
It's all the mistakes probably mine, all the glorious stuff that's the team.
Dice que si hago un error es culpa mía y lo bueno es mérito de los demás.
There was a whole team behind everyone on the site here.
People,
Ya te digo, eso sí que hacen frío.
We've got some questions.
Tener aire acondicionado a tope,
I'm sure
¿no?
there'll be some for chat. Now we've got a lot to go through, chat. So if we don't get to all your questions on here, some of it we'll see you asking, some of it we know you're asking. Some of it we're not going to tell you today because we're going to keep something back for surprises. But we have got a lot to go through. So I guess, Sandy, for people that aren't aware or are not sure, can you give us like a top-level view of what sort of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Realms of Ruin?
Pregunta a Sandy que nos hable un poquito del juego. ¿Qué es este juego?
Fundamentally, it's a modern take on a real-time strategy game.
Así que básicamente es una toma moderna en un juego de estrategia real.
And that's coupled with our fantastic partners of Games Workshop. They're
que tiene una fantástica colaboración con Games Workshop.
Of Age of Sigmar, which is the setting for the game.
Yeah.
But you, like any RTS, you take control of a load of units on various battle maps. You fight for control of territory.
Que tienes control de muchas unidades, que tienes que controlar muchas zonas en el mapa.
You unlock cool new abilities.
Bueno, el típico de un juego RTS.
Your opponent. So that's anyone that's played an RTS.
Yeah.
We didn't want to fix what wasn't broken.
Yep.
We don't want to reinvent the wheel.
Que no querían reinventar la rueda.
Exciting, fun, fast-paced RTS. But also, obviously, we have a fully featured cinematic story as well.
Que tiene una historia cinemática. No he enseñado todavía nada. Ya me haciendo una pequeña introducción, hablando de quién es cada uno y demás.
Without spoilers, obviously. Don't get him in trouble. Not in your first stream, all right? But yeah, go for it.
No, so I know the story was co-written with Gav Thorpe. That must have been absolutely amazing.
Big shout out to Gav Thorpe. He's Mr. Awesome.
La historia va en torno a una Stormcast, Gazu o algo así, he entendido el nombre, y es un tío que es la leche por lo visto. Que son fieles al lore de Games Workshop, por los cuales colaboran con ellos.
And he's just an all-round nice guy as well, and incredibly talented. So yeah, it was really, really fun because the world of Age of Sigmar, it's just this fantastical set of magical realms where you can do a lot of cool stuff. So the realms themselves are really interesting.
Yeah. So without giving away too much about the story, because we obviously want players to go through it and experience it and play it. Can you give us like a synopsis or just like a brief?
¿Me puedes dar una pequeña sinopsis de qué va la trama de la campaña principal del juego?
I talk too much, so just
no,
shut up when I
get
Sandy, go. Just let him talk.
So fundamentally, and I think this fits in line with the current what's currently going on in the Age of Sigmar lore.
Sé que es una campaña que va pareja al lore actual de Sigmar. Habla de que bueno, que hay reinos mortales y demás, ¿no? Esto es una introducción para la gente que no tenga ni idea de Sigmar, básicamente. Que la campaña está ambientada en Gur.
The realm has been racked by violence and war for
mucha violencia y demás, bueno, cosas que sabemos, ¿no? Del reino.
The forces of order, led by Sigmar himself, they're striking out from their few strongholds, and they're going out to resettle the land and reclaim it and civilize it again.
Básicamente lo que está yendo el lore actualmente de Sigmar, ¿no? De cómo van intentando crear ciudades y demás, y los Orruks las destruyen y eso. Esa guerra que hay en Gur.
Most of them don't make it.
Que la mayoría no lo consigue.
And then of the few that do, most of those don't last very long. But what we've got is in our story is it's a settlement that actually it has prospered a little bit. They got there, it survived for a while, but now it's fallen on really hard times. And
surprise.
Exactly. So
la campaña gira en grupo a una compañía, digamos, que ha prosperado un poquito, ¿no? Y que está en un momento difícil, ¿no? De esa construcción de esa base, digamos.
A rather psychopathic, cruel boy. Killer boss, I love the names. Is intent on just basically laying it low, and our story focuses on effectively the desperate gamble that the Stormcast Eternals have to make to try and protect this Dawnbringer settlement, and it leads them into.
Habla de que la historia se centra un poco en las acciones esperadas que deben tomar los Stormcast para proteger esa fortaleza de construcción, ¿no? Esa incipiente ciudad.
For now, there'll be more, I'm sure, going forwards. But of course, it's not just a single-player game that is one of the features. We have multiplayer.
Yes.
Que una de las características que tiene una campaña, pero que también hay multijugador y demás, ¿no? Estaban comentando ahora.
We'll do some messaging around this later on. There's also an open beta that's coming up, so players will actually have to get on and try it out for the first time. We'll stress it's a beta, so I say beta, tomato, right? But it is what it is. We're there to stress test the fundamentals of the game. The servers need to be stress tested. The balancing needs to be looked at. So we are fully asking for your feedback to go in there. I say break it. I don't want to say break it.
Que van a escuchar a la comunidad para el feedback para el equilibrio del juego y demás, ¿no?
But there's lots more to this game than just obviously we've got the single-player campaign. We've got 4 factions.
There are
4 facciones.
Yes.
But we're only talking about 2.
Que esto lo sabemos al principio porque se va a hablar de 2 por ahora, que son Stormcast y Cruel Boys.
We obviously have announced the Stormcast Eternals and we announced the Uruks Cruel Boys. 2 more will come in time. So
Se enseñarán 2 más en su momento, los otros 2 que faltan.
There's a lot going on here within Age of Sigmar. I guess what a question for both of you really, maybe Philippa first. What are you most excited to see players sort of get their hands on?
La pregunta ya, ¿qué es lo que más ganas tienes de que vea la gente, los jugadores de este juego?
Secrets. Yeah. I'm really excited for people to see quite how much. I know the level of detail is something we talk about quite a lot, but I think Frontier is quite known for, especially on the animation side, obviously, which is the area that I work with the most. The sort of attention to detail, really fine creature animation.
Quiere que la gente vea el detalle de atención, las animaciones de criaturas y demás. Intentando hacer un mundo vivo, ¿no? ¿Qué manera de componer pocas facciones? Dice Janemba en el chat. 4 de base, una de cada gran alianza, suponemos. Bueno, no os quepa ninguna duda que ese juego va bien. Van a empezar a salir facciones. Y aunque lo vamos a ver mejor en este stream, en principio pinta bastante bien todo, la verdad.
And I looked and I was like, oh, this must be a cutscene. I was like, no, that's the unit in the game. And I was like, what? And I think I've typed it in almost every single milestone. It's like, you do realise you're making RTS, guys, right? It's not, the detail is phenomenal. And of course, this is for everyone, right? It's for console players, so Xbox Series, X and S, PS5, PC, it's crossplay.
Bueno, que saldrá en PC, en PlayStation 5, en Xbox Series X y S, que habrá juego cruzado. De como jugador de consola que siempre ha llorado porque no tenía un RTS, ¿no? Y que por fin va a tener uno, ¿no?
We've talked about sort of some of the things that are in sort of Age of Sigmar Realms of Ruin. We've talked about sort of the single player and multiplayer, four playable factions. We've talked about where it's going to be available. So we do have a thing to remind everybody. So there's a couple of things that's quite exciting, and we've got a world premiere coming up any moment now, which we'll get to. We are going to get to it. But just before that, we've got a few things we're going to go through. The first thing I want to remind everybody about is we have a competition running at the moment on our socials. So if you haven't seen it, you've got a chance to win this incredible PC. I think it's got a 4070 graphics card.
Está hablando de un concurso que tienen ahora mismo en marcha a través de sus redes sociales, en su página web, Facebook y Twitter, podéis ver ahí, en la que tenéis la oportunidad de ganar este pedazo de pepino. Dan puntos extra por seguir a la cuenta de Twitter, a de Facebook, etcétera, por comentar y demás, ¿no? Es una pasada este ordenador. Espero que se gane la venta también, porque es una pasada.
For you to have a chance to win. I think there's a couple of weeks on this yet, so you've got a chance to enter. There's probably more ways to get points, right? I've probably listed them all, but I
think there's 14 ways in total.
So you've got 14 tickets. There's a little fly here, so I should have left my pets at home, but it's hanging around me. We're talking about the swamps of Gur, and there's flies arrive. So yeah, have a check of that competition. It really is worth 5 minutes of your time just to follow us on those socials. Plus, you get to see all of the cool news first. So have a look to see there. And the second thing I really want to remind you all about, we touched on it briefly, but we do have an open beta, if you're me and you can't say it properly, and that's running between the 7th and the 10th of July.
Recordando que la beta abierta empezará el 7 de julio, como veis en pantalla, del 7 al 10 de julio.
On the game as it stands, it's not by any means finished. We're still looking to stress test our servers to see what breaks, see what falls down. We need your help to do that. And we're obviously looking at some of the balancing for some of the units, but you know, in recompense for doing that, you get to actually play around with the 2 factions. So you get to have a look at the Stormcast Eternals and the Cruel Boys. You get to see how the mechanics of the game work, which we'll probably touch on a bit later on in the show. And you can have a taster for what sort of Realms of Ruin is all about. So, I guess, only because I like saying world premiere, we should probably...
Tenemos una world premiere, ¿no? del juego.
Adam, are we ready?
¿Estamos listos? Vamos para allá, vamos para allá. Hay que enseñar ahora. Atentos, chicos. Los Stormcast Eternal, Laura. Un fácil focus.
Peggy 16. The Stormcast Eternals are mortal heroes that have been transformed into supernatural warriors in the forges of Azir. Each the embodiment of Sigmar's storm. They are the God King's wrath made manifest, and they were created for one single purpose: outright war. While they may be few, when a Stormcast Eternal falls, they are brought back time and time again to fight anew. In Warhammer, Age of Sigmar, Realms of Ruin, you will command the mighty Stormcast Eternals in their quest to defend an ailing Dawnbringer settlement from unrelenting raids by the wicked and
no sé si os he fijado, pero me ha gustado el detalle de que tuviera las ojeras de los cascos pintados en negro. Me ha gustado.
Stormcast Eternals embarks on a perilous mission to the wild and savage swamps of Gur. She seeks to obtain a great artifact that will help them turn the tides against the Orc menace. The Stormcast Eternals are a robust, elite army that excel when fighting in a combined force of frontline fighters and ranged attackers. Their access to a variety of different troops and reliance on well-rounded forces requires a hefty investment of resources to hold their ground. The steadfast Stormcast Eternal heroes have abilities to heal and resurrect fallen units, or lead from the front with devastating charges and powers that call down the storm to obliterate enemies. As commander, you'll have access to a wide range of units, including Annihilators, formidable and elite soldiers, emboldened by impervious thunderstrike armor and devastating meteoric hammers. Prosecutors, warrior heralds of Sigmar, who soar through the battlefield at incredible speeds, unhindered by the grasping swamps of Gur. And finally, the mighty Stormdrake Guard, dragon-riding knights capable of annihilating enemy hordes with lance, claw, and righteous wormflame. Issuing the right commands is just as crucial as the squads you bring to the
marcar rutas predefinidas.
When playing with a gamepad, you'll have access to an innovative control scheme that gives you the tactical flexibility you need to conquer your enemies.
Tenemos Raptors.
With the direct
ahí tenemos evocadores,
you'll enjoy the immediacy of traditional real-time strategy controls mapped onto a controller. Issue orders, snap instantly between squad selections, and use a classic RTS camera view to survey distant forces and objectives. Then experience the pounding heart of battle up close and execute precise commands as the clash intensifies. Direct Step enables you to quickly respond to the conflict as it evolves, activating squad abilities, creating groups of squads, and balancing a war across multiple
mira, pues se pueden crear escuadras con varios tipos de unidades para que hagan una misma acción.
The Stormcast Eternals are just one of 4 factions coming to Warhammer, Age of Sigmar, Realms of Ruin.
Pues es muy chulo el gameplay que se ha visto. La verdad que me parece que tiene pintaza este juego, la verdad. A ver qué dicen ahora de esto.
There we go. So that was a world premiere. I didn't say it, did I? World premiere of the Stormcast Eternals faction focus video. I actually got tiny goosebumps on my arm. My hair's standing up. Incredible, incredible stuff. Right, you're sat on the sofa. I'm going to start asking questions about this, and we have some questions that are coming from chats. And so we'll answer some, not all, because we'll be careful in the spoiler territory. So someone asked, could we see some gameplay? Well, apart from the obviously hand-drawn stuff, that was gameplay. That was in-game footage you were seeing there of the Stormcast Eternals in action.
Me está diciendo que es eso, que gameplay, que es montaje del mismo juego.
Some of those scenes, and we'll talk about how the team have made that in a moment. But there's another question there about the units when they were using abilities and does it cost a resource? And we won't go into too much, but Sandy, does...
Vale, le pregunta que cómo has de usar las habilidades, si cuestan recursos o algo así.
They're both vital. Balancing how you get them, how you use them is important. And abilities do use resources, so you can't just spam them. And,
que las habilidades usan recursos para que no puedas spamearlas.
And win a game that way. But they're pretty cool, the effects you get from them.
Yeah, so there we go.
So recursos pues se obtienen capturando los puntos.
Right, timing and placement when you're going to use them will be super, super important. Right. Okay, so we looked at the faction. We'll keep an eye on chat see if there's any more questions coming in. I think another one was there a Discord? Phil, you set it up. Is there a Discord?
I did. There is a Discord, yes.
Go on.
I think Paul has put the link in chat already, so...
Bueno, que hay un canal de Discord del Realms of Ruin.
The beta, it'd be great to have everyone in there chatting and discussing stuff. That'd be really, really useful for all of us. But Sandy, we had a look at the Stormcast there. They look pretty solid as a faction. Like, I mean, in every sense of the word.
Physically solid. Yeah. They're suits of the people in giant suits of magical armor. They've been forged literally on the anvil of apotheosis, I believe, something like that.
Sounds painful, but
yeah,
probably
it is painful. Actually, the Stormcast, as an aside, and I probably shouldn't be talking, don't need to talk about this, but the Stormcast are a great faction because they're these heroes, souls of heroes that are reforged quite literally into living, walking weapons, but they still retain their own personalities. And each time they die
hablando un poco de esos Stormcast que son armas vivientes, ¿no? Súper acorazados, pues, que guardan su personalidad, que se van reforjando cada vez que mueren y demás.
It's never just nice.
A bit of a darkness to them, which I think makes them really, really interesting.
No, you died, have a cup of tea, then get back out. It's not that. You died, then we take some of humanity and then get back out there and fight.
Yeah, it's we're gonna hammer you back into shape and then chuck you back to the wolves.
Yo creo que está empezando a sudar.
I was going to say, as a faction, could you give me an overview?
An overview, yeah. They're tough. They're very resilient. That Sigmarite armor is impressive. They've got a lot of staying power. Quite expensive. They're quite elite. So they're a little bit more expensive.
Estos casos son caros, que son más rollo élite.
A fewer numbers in the units of them.
Son menos números pero más poderosos, ¿no?
Also, what they rely on is a kind of combined force of arms.
Yep.
So they're very versatile. They've got flyers. They've got artillery. They've got cool heroes and strong frontline troops. So working in concert with each of the different types, they can pretty much overcome any foe. They don't tend to try and excel in any one area.
Yeah.
But accept staying power. Right?
I mean, if they weren't so tanky, you'd be surprised when you're looking at them. You'd be like, you look like you can take a bit of a hit.
They've got big shields and big hammers and big swords.
I was immediately drawn.
And everything's wreathed in lightning. What's not to like?
Yeah, exactly. Who can not like them?
Yeah.
But I guess, and without spoilers, do all the factions have like kind of their own ethos sort of thing?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So, although as an RTS you control them all in the same way, you move them around, you purchase them, purchase reinforcements, and you trigger abilities and tech up. Each of the factions also has has themes that it progresses. Yeah. The resilience is one of the themes of the Stormcast, where
sí, bueno, que cada facción tiene su peculiaridad, ¿no? Que en el caso de los Stormcast es su resiliencia, ¿no?
Like the Auric Crawl Boys, they don't follow quite that same path. They've got other tricks up their sleeve to counter it. So yeah, every faction has a kind of a set of themes that help.
They play to.
Exactly. Yeah, they're not super enforced. You can play it however you want, but they've got specialities that they're better at than the others.
Yeah. And we talk about, I mean, I think if you go to the website, you can see the triangle of sort of combat, how that works. Do you want to talk about how that works?
Yeah, so it's partly to make sure that it's accessible as a game. There is a lot of strategy and depth in there, but for a new player, all of the units have little icons that describe their overall behaviour, and we've got three main types of icon. We've got bows, shields.
Que para que todo el mundo tenga información sobre las unidades, que han puesto iconos, ¿no? Que indican el tipo de rol o de función que tiene cada unidad, ¿no? Para que todo el mundo lo pueda reconocer fácilmente.
Ranged attacks, so they overcome bows.
Yeah.
But they are themselves overcome by swords, who tend to have powerful charge attacks and the ability to defeat armour. But obviously they get wrecked by bows. So it's a nice little triangle. Obviously we subvert it all the time, and heroes fall outside of that, and some other units kind of fall outside of that combat triangle. But it's like a nice, quick identifier for if you see an enemy unit approaching you, and you think, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
If you look at the icon above the unit, you've got an idea.
You understand
that. Okay, right. I've got an idea. I've got an idea of what they're kind of going to be good at, and what it might need to counter them. So it's hopefully
quick to learn.
Exactly.
Hard to master. Right.
That's the plan. That's the plan. That's what we're going for. That's hopefully the beta results from the beta will help us, refine that even further. So. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing that. Scared, but looking forward to seeing the results.
I guess a question for both of you, and maybe Philippa. I mean, how is it with the development team when you know you're this close to actually putting something you've worked for such a long time on, and you literally had to put it into people's hands for the first time.
Está preguntando un poco qué se siente después de estar tanto tiempo trabajando en un proyecto como este, ¿no? Cuando por fin tienes algo palpable y se lo puedes enseñar a un jugador para que lo pruebe. Me dice, mira lo que estamos haciendo, ¿no?
And it's sort of for these years, it's
Esa
sort of been our
satisfacción
little
que daría,
project.
¿no?
Like we've been playing it, we've been making it, and we're like, this is ours. And now the thought of other people getting their hands on it is really strange. I'm like, it's not yours, it's mine.
Don't give it to him.
Que cuando lo han enseñado, ¿no? Que es una sensación extraña de, no, es juego que no es tuyo, que es mío, ¿no? Lo he hecho yo.
I'm really excited. I mean, I know we came into it relatively late. Obviously, you guys have been making it for quite some time, years, I think it's fair.
Considerable time, yeah.
Que llevan años en el desarrollo del juego. Bueno, algo típico hoy en día, ¿no?
Shout out to you for winning. I think you're the first to get a win. So well done for the first to get a win. I've got to say it. Shout out to Sally who beat me on a 1v1. It was Stormcast versus Stormcast, and Sally beat me. Fair to say she was cheating, but still. But it's.
Voy a decir que el que está al lado que me sacó de manga corta, que echó una partida ambos jugando Stormcast y que ganó el de manga corta.
With a team that's been so close to a project for so long, and sometimes you know, because you're literally just now making stuff.
At this point, we're really close.
Yeah.
So this is why we need to start branching out and getting feedback from more people.
Bueno, que el juego está prácticamente terminado, ¿no? Que está muy cerca ya de haberlo terminado y que ahora están en el punto de necesitar el feedback de la gente pues para poder por eso la beta abierta, ¿no? Para mejorar, arreglar cosas, balance y demás.
I hope that people enjoy it. It's been fantastic to make.
Que espera que la gente se divierta y que ha sido una experiencia fantástica, ¿no? A lo que la chica siente también.
Back to the Stormcast sort of faction focus just for a moment. I'll talk about some of the units in a moment, but I said it at the start. I'll say it again. I mean, and we saw in chat there, people were just like, I've never seen a game look like this.
Yeah.
I mean, that is testament to the hard work you and your team have put into sort of Realms of Ruin. Can you talk through some of the units and just the intricacies of the work you go into? Because I remember watching milestone videos and I was just like, this is...
Está preguntando por si puede comentar algo del trabajo que le ha llevado a hacer alguna unidad, ¿no? Que tiene muy buena pinta gráficamente.
The work that I personally do is that sometimes you don't notice it unless it's wrong. So it's all these tiny little details.
It's a bit like community management.
Right. So there was a shot of, I think, some liberators walking up a hill, right? And we have a system in there called foot planting, and what that does is it looks at the terrain that they're walking on, and it readjusts the orientation of the feet and the bend of the knees.
Está hablando, por ejemplo, de ella cómo ha trabajado en cosas que es un detalle que se ha visto en el vídeo, de cómo si, por ejemplo, unos Stormcast están subiendo una cuesta, como los pies se adaptan a la cuesta en lugar de ir recto y traspasar el suelo, ¿no? Que es algo que se ve en muchos juegos, ¿no? Y cómo a la vez incide en la física, ¿no? Como va caminando con más esfuerzo y demás.
It is, yes.
You have to do that as well?
So I work very closely with our animation team, and what they'll do is they will obviously author these amazing animations. So animations, it's not just mechanical movement. It's the weight of the armor that they're carrying. It's the character. It's if they're full of energy, if they're tired, if they're under attack or whatever, they'll author these animations, and then that will come through to my team, which is a team of 2 people. And what we do is we basically write the code and do the setup that takes these animations and puts them into the game, and also makes them sort of respond to the game environment. So with ranged units, they might have a cone of, I don't know, a few degrees in which they can aim, more than a few degrees. Well,
very one-eyed.
Yeah. They have a 1 degree aim.
Why are you an archer? I don't know. It's all I had left.
Really good in that 1 degree though.
Está hablando del rango de las unidades de disparo, ¿no? Como tienen una especie de división triangular, de poder girarse unos 45 grados hacia cada lado, ¿no?
If you're an animator, you don't want to be producing hundreds of animations for every single incremental degree. So what our animators will actually do is they'll make maybe an up, a down, a left, a right, and a forward. And then what we do is we write code that says, okay, well, we're here, our enemy's there, what angle do we need to aim at? Then we take that angle and we say, okay, we have these animations, how do we blend them together into a combination?
Sí, de cómo ha tenido que desarrollar las animaciones para las unidades de disparo, ¿no? Según se van girando para tomar objetivos, ¿no? Es un detalle técnico sin más, ¿no?
I think are often the unsung heroes, because the animators, who are fantastic, make beautiful animations, but then what you guys do is you make them work in the game. And that's, like you say, when it works, you don't notice it. You just go, oh, wonderful animation. But there's so much effort and complexity in making it work in all those circumstances. But it works.
But I think it's stunning. But it's also, it's not just yes, it makes the game look absolutely fantastic, but it's also it's informing the player as well, right?
Yeah.
So players are seeing, oh, my unit is slowed down, my unit is fatigued, my unit is under attack, my unit is winning.
Those visual cues are so
Se habla de todo tipo de animaciones de cuando una unidad está bajo ataque, cuando una unidad está cansada, etcétera, ¿no?
Also responsive, right? You want it to happen when it happens in game because you need that immediate visual.
Y cómo representa con las animaciones el estado de la unidad, digamos.
Yeah. We had a sneak peek at some of the units in there, not all of them from the Stormcast.
Que vamos a echar un pequeño vistazo a algunas unidades de Stormcast.
Well, you don't glimpse the Stormdrake Guard. You definitely see the Stormdrake Guard in all. Well, not all of its glory, but most of its glory.
They are fabulous.
How was that to work with the anime, and what did you do to make that look as good as it looks?
Right. So that one's really interesting. So we have a little bit of tech for this mounted unit. It's animated as one thing, you know, the rider and the mount.
Está hablando ahora de las animaciones de los dragones, ¿no? De la guardia de la tormenta, la Stormdrake Guard.
If you're going really fast and you're going around a corner, you tend to lean in to your turns and things. So we add a little bit of lean and we add a little bit of twist whenever we have units that are sort of going around tight, curved paths. What we do with these mounted units is we have a little bit of tech that kicks in, and the rider leans first, and then the mount follows it. Because if you're riding a horse, you're the one driving, right? You're making the motion to turn.
Nada, detalles técnicos, ¿no? De cómo se gira el jinete y hacer que la montura se incline un poco, en este caso el dragón al volar para hacer un giro y demás.
To get you where you want to go.
I mean, that for something that you just look at, oh, that's great. The amount of work that goes into doing that, and that's animating all the different points of the body as well, which is fantastic.
I do want to stress that obviously it's not what I do. It's not meant to replace or hide the work the animators do. It's about highlighting what it is that they're trying to get across. Because, like I said, they're responsible for getting that character and the weight and everything across, and we just kind of make that shine and make it happen in the game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there was a unit which I can never pronounce correctly, and I can see Sandy's waiting for me to try. I'm going to try. Is it the Celestar Ballista?
The Celestar Ballista, yes.
Pregunta por la Celestar Ballista.
Glimpse it, don't you, in the trailer? That's a little bit unique because it's like multiple units combined, right?
That's really cool. So it's 3 individually animated things, the Ballista and the 2 Sacristan Engineers, and they coordinate together, right? So they coordinate to pick up and deploy and fire this Ballista.
Lo mismo, ¿no? Habla de la complejidad de animar la balista, en este caso son 3 miniaturas, digamos, que interactúan, ¿no? 3 ingenieros ahí para que uno coge las flechas o como coño se llamen.
It's ridiculous. That particular unit is a ridiculous amount of detail. Also, it's just how strong Stormcast are. Because that is one weighty piece of machinery, and they're hefting it round. They're getting it around the battlefield.
I remember watching it and seeing again. It was one of the milestones which.
Tengo curiosidad por ver cómo se mueve la balista.
And I remember seeing it, and my jaw was just on the floor. I was like, I can't believe you're doing all this work.
We haven't made lives easier for ourselves. I mean, if you watch the engineer, operating the ballista, she'll fire it, and then when you move, she'll get up. She'll kind of do this really cool little swing underneath the arm of the ballista to go around to the front, and then pick it up, and then drag it, and then put it down. Like it's amazing. It's so intricate and so complex.
And that's I say an easy one to pick out, but I mean there's a saying of death by 1,000 cuts, but this is literally the opposite. This is like 1,000 sweet little touches that create this amazing sort of whole, right? Across all the units.
How good the every game is not just does it play well or does it look good or does it sound good or does it feel right.
Bueno, siguen básicamente lo mismo, hablando del trabajo que lleva, todo lo que se tiene que coordinar para que todo quede bien y demás.
We had some units to have a look at.
Dando palmadas,
I did talk
básicamente.
to you, Sandy, about some of the units, and I'm sure there might be some questions in the chat that I might have a look through and see if we see anything in there we can potentially answer. But we looked at just a few of them in here. Now I have a whole load of notes here, chat, so I do apologise. I am cheating a little bit, but there's a lot of info here. So we've looked at on screen what we did see. There were some annihilators. Now, talk me through. I don't know if you have any lore stuff, but maybe in the game, what's their roles?
So they're
Pregunta por el rol de los aniquiladores.
Units for Stormcast Eternals. They're basically very, very tanky.
Que son unidades élite muy tanque.
Once they arrive somewhere, go, okay, we're not really going anywhere. So they're very, very resistant to basically everything. They could just sit there and just tank it. And also they've got a fairly fantastic ability that lets them charge through enemy units and just scatter them like bowling pins.
You don't really want to be in the way, do you?
No, they don't. So exactly. On the flip side, they're not.
Y que tienen entendido que tienen una habilidad que les permite cargar y arrollar, básicamente.
They're not the fastest of units, so once they're paid,
squad for me.
Exactly. You need to think about, well, I've got them here. It will take them a little while to go somewhere else. Whereas other units, especially ones that are airborne or just move more quickly, would be able to get to other places easier. So you do tend to commit them.
Yeah.
But it's brilliant because they're large. I know, probably 8 foot tall, and they're really big guys, but they're still human sized. It's really great to see this small unit of like 3 of these annihilators just taking on Orcmas. Not going anywhere. It's like, I can't kill them. They won't go away. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, we touched on it there. I'm sure we'll go into this in a sort of deeper dive in one of the other streams. But we're talking about the units and we're talking about how they move and stuff. But obviously, the world in which this all takes place is also fantastically detailed. And it's not skin deep. There are actually things you have to worry about because you mentioned there about obviously they are slow. They've got to traverse through a swamp. They're even slower, right?
So you can be slowed down.
Habla de cómo el mundo está vivo en cierto mundo, ¿no? En cierto momento, perdón. En cierto sentido, perdón. Como si pasas por un pantano, pues te ralentiza el movimiento y demás.
The prosecutors, right?
Yeah, the prosecutors, they're kind of somewhat poster children for the Stormcast Eternals, these angelic flying
Hasta hablando de prosecutors, ¿no? Que son guerreros angelicales.
So they're kind of the opposite. So whereas the Annihilators are...
Que son un poco lo opuesto a los aniquiladores.
Units, basically. They sit there and take it. The prosecutors are they're damage dealers. And the way that they deal their damage is by getting to you very quickly. So you can't get away because they can fly.
Son tíos que hacen mucho daño y la forma que tienen de hacer daño es que son capaces de llegar rápido al combate, ¿no?
You can basically take off and land at will, which is really cool. When you're flying, everyone can see you. When you're on the ground,
which is to be expected, right?
Exactly,
with the giant angelic wings.
Exactly, you're hidden by the fog of war. So it's an interesting take because flying is an incredibly powerful utility. You can get to wherever you need to be. And most terrain.
Que volar, que es algo muy útil, porque te puedes colocar donde quieras. Si me digo, cortes un pantano y vas muy lento, como no. Wait. Vamos a tener rasgos de ese tipo, ¿no? Veremos a ver en cuarta edición.
Saturating area with these
the most aggressive angels you're ever going to meet.
Yeah, exactly. No, magical barrages. So they're not quite as tough though. So because they are
balance you were talking about,
they're the sword units. Therefore, if there's a lot of ranged firepower dotted around, you can be careful how you use them, basically.
Yeah.
But they're a lot of fun and they look awesome.
People are asking for more gameplay. We'll run that trailer again for you in a moment, just so you can. I know people want to see more of the gameplay.
Van a enseñar otro vídeo de gameplay en un momento, dicen.
And also, we may have mentioned
imagino que será el de Ivoox.
Adam off his stride, but there is an open beta coming up, the 7th to the 10th of July, so you won't have to wait not just to see.
Vuelven a recordar que tenemos la beta abierta del 7 al 10 de julio. Recordad que os podéis registrar en tanto en la página web como bueno, ahí te pueden poner el enlace de Facebook y Twitter. No será posible hacer registro desde ahí. Desde la web seguro. Yo por lo menos lo he hecho.
It isn't by any means finished. We are looking you to stress test the game, stress test the mechanics, make sure we look at the balancing and stuff. Because
absolutely, we want the feedback. Yeah. We absolutely want as much feedback as possible.
Y que buscan eso, que buscan feedback de la gente.
The test is to find things that are wrong with it.
Yes.
That's the whole point. The whole point is to find things that are wrong with it.
Yeah, so hopefully you won't have long, well, you don't have long wait at all.
Ganas de probar la beta.
And of course, we're in full swing of our.
Espero que se pueda enseñar, que podamos jugar a la beta, que nos den acceso y que podamos enseñarla en el canal.
Keep on top of all the things. Please follow us on our social channels. But not just for that reason. Phil, there's a competition, right? Am I right?
There is a competition, yes. So you can win.
Y vuelven a recordar lo de la competición esta, ¿no? El concurso del PC espectacular este dicho Sigmar. Que va a recordar como recuerdan ellos, ¿no? Tenéis varias formas de puntuar para ganar lo que es siguiendo, o sea, a través de la web, siguiéndolos en Facebook, en Instagram. Y ahí está 14 opciones, 14 formas de ganar puntos para el sorteo. Esto, siguiéndolos en Twitch creo también.
But how can you enter? There's how many entry points?
Yes, there's 14 separate ways that you can enter.
Yep. Examples would be like follow socials.
So yeah, following our socials, joining the Discord.
Entrando en el Discord también, dan puntos.
Insta,
Twitter, Instagram,
also overclockers as well.
Exactly.
There's 14 ways to enter. But yes, we want you on our socials. Yes, we want you in our Discord.
Venga, ya lo habéis contado. Así ahora más gameplay, coño. Queremos ver Orrux, queremos ver la Wave 2 de Cruel Boys, de Isma.
And we are all being very careful about not to mention anything else because just off screen is our product manager. We never really talk about, but we're always here somewhere, and there will be a crossbow aimed somewhere. No, I'm joking, there won't be. Right, and there's one more unit I wanted to talk about because I can't not talk about it.
Va a preguntar por otra unidad de Stormcast.
The Storm Drake Guard is fantastic.
Por la Storm Drake Guard, dragones.
It's expensive,
Una unidad cara,
big,
grande, poderosa.
It can fly,
Puede
which
volar.
is really scary because normally one of the levers in balancing is, well, if it's really big and powerful, then it can't get around. But no, this canon's got wings. It wouldn't really work if it didn't fly. It's got pretty wonderful abilities that you can use with it that just deal vast amounts of damage.
¿Qué están rotos los dragones? Vamos, como el juego de mesa.
Not immune from damage. It's one of our sword units, so with enough concentrated firepower, especially ranged firepower, you've got to protect it. And especially if it's flying around in the air and you're not paying attention, then everyone's just going to be sticking arrows in it. It's not like you can miss it.
But also, I guess it's big, it's scary, it's in the air. It's a great distraction if you want to be doing something else. If you send it into the sky, people are like, oh, deploy everything over here.
All of our testing, when we ever play it, when there's a Storm Drake Guard on the map, everyone's looking at the Storm Drake Guard.
Es decir, cuando hay un dragón en el mapa que todo el mundo se queda mirando, ¿no? Que hay que concentrar el fuego en el dragón para tumbarlo rápido.
It takes a decent amount of effort to be bringing that one on as reinforcements.
Y que no son especialmente blandos. Se puede hacer daño, pero no son especialmente blandos.
Has unit of such top tierity. I'm taking it. I'm making it a real word.
Every faction has one or two units of that top tierity.
Todas las facciones tienen una o dos unidades de top tier.
Yeah.
Let's
just leave it at that.
Ahora sí no puedo decir todas porque las otras dos no las sabemos.
You need to finish the game. Right. So we've seen some of the units, not all the units, some of the units.
Hemos visto algunas de las unidades, no todas.
I know we're going to be quite loaded, and I need to be very careful with your answers. So we're trying to keep it. Do we have a favourite faction, and is it the ones that we've seen?
Les pregunta si algunas de sus facciones favoritas son alguna de las dos que hemos visto. Ella dice que su favorita es una de las dos que están por salir. Y a Sandy...
I'm going to cheat on this one and say I'm not sure I have a favorite faction because every time
¿Estás seguro de cuál es su facción favorita? Que depende de lo que esté jugando.
And all the things, the way the gameplay is great and fantastic units, but sometimes
os recuerdo que es bastante probable que la facción del caos sean discípulos de Sigmar. Salió una imagen hace un año en la que se veía un ogroide, el Mirmidon Ceridon creo que se llama, es el mago de discípulos de Sigmar. Si una imagen de este juego y salía ese personaje, entonces da a entender eso, ¿no? Todo el caos se hace.
The Ordo is splendiferous. I'm not even sure that's a word.
We're going to make
that
our
is
own
now.
Words.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it's great, and I can't, like I say, we'll do sort of deeper dives on this sort of stuff because I think our growing community of fans here will want to see that sort of how the sausage is made, for want of a better term. But we'll go through some of that stuff and just show. It's a real term, isn't it? Hashtag not suitable for work. But there we go. So, talking about the units we've seen on screen today, is there a favourite from the Stormcast? Because I know we have seen the Europe.
Pregunta por su unidad favorita de las que se han visto en el vídeo de Stormcast. Tenemos que elegir una, ¿cuál sería la pregunta?
Yeah, mine's the Celestar Ballista by a mile.
Ella dice que la Celestar Ballista.
So much going on there. Yeah, it's brilliant. I just love it.
That's a good call. That's a good call. I could go with that. I'm going to go with the Knight Vexillor.
Y él dice que el Knight Vexillor,
el
estandarte.
Banner flag of
Sigmar. I thought I'd lowered the tone and you were following on, Sandy. I'm glad you got it.
One of the reasons I actually like it, though, it's a bit of a naughty reason, is that getting the banner to work.
Oh my God!
It's the amount of effort that's gone into it, but it's all made it all worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean,
also in the story, there's a particular Knight Vexillor that is my favourite character.
Dice que en la historia hay un Knight Vexillor en particular que es su personaje favorito de la campaña.
I personally and you have spent a lot of time working on this banner. This is like Team Flag. It's amazing. So a lot of the cloth in this game is procedurally animated. So that flag, you see it waving around, it's all under sort of just physics simulation.
It's like wind. We create wind play, and then when he fights, he sticks it in the ground.
Yeah.
So he doesn't. He can fight away from it. He can move around, and then he can summon it back. So.
Así que cuando pelea que clava la estandarte en el suelo.
I'm really getting across to because I'm coming at, I guess, from a player's perspective, and I immediately noticed how much passion there is to get the little details like that right, and that is what bleeds through everything that I've seen in every faction, on every map, in every ability. It's like.
La parte buena de esto es que sobre todo Aya se ve especialmente ilusionado cuando trabaja en un juego así, ¿no? Es una parte importante, ¿no? Si trabajas en un juego con ganas, con ilusión, pues siempre te va a ayudar a dar un poquito más de ti y hacerlo un poquito mejor, ¿no? Yo personalmente tengo bastante fe en este juego, la verdad.
Am I looking at an RTS or not? And I'm like, I just can't believe it. It's fantastic.
I think that all came from an offhand comment you made about it would be nice if he could plant his flag in the ground where he goes to fight.
Your fault, Sandy.
And then it became. I'm really proud. I think it looks amazing, and I think we've got it looking amazing. But it just, all this time.
Well, I'm Team Flag, It's made us cry, so it's got to be worth it.
So you will like this flag,
right? Yeah.
All right. Okay. So we've had a look at the faction focus video. I think actually one of the things I want to talk about is we talked about earlier on is that this is going to be available on consoles as well as on PC. And one of the things we looked at the end of the faction focus video was something called Direct Step, which we're going to come to now and talk to you about now. Age of Sigmar, Realms of Ruin is its heart and soul as an RTS. You mentioned it right at the start, like it's built on the fundamentals of an RTS. And it's you can play it on mouse and keyboard on console as well as PC if you want to.
Bueno, voy a recordar que el juego va a salir en
PC,
consola y tal.
If you want to play it on a pad, talk me through Direct Step, because this is really clever what you guys have all done here.
Well, it was part of the initial remit. Was we want as wide an audience as possible to play this game. And we want to.
Estamos viendo en pantalla imágenes del Faction Focus del juego de Stormcast que enseñaron antes.
On console, as if you were playing effectively on a PC. But if you want to sit and like I
Aquí fijándonos un poquito más en el mapa, ahora podemos ver arriba la puntuación de cada bando, podemos ver los recursos arriba a la izquierda, las habilidades de la unidad seleccionada y lo que cuestan, los puntos que cuestan, lo vemos también abajo a la izquierda.
So rather than slavishly just try and mimic a mouse cursor all the time.
Tiene pintaza este juego.
We wanted to get across, well, what do? You give orders and you iterate on giving orders very, very quickly. So the way we do that is when you select a unit, by default, the camera just jumps to it and locks to it, and you can now orbit it. And when you use the left stick, you're drawing out a heading indicator, and it's very much akin to being much closer to the action and giving orders by pointing over the unit's shoulder.
Los liberadores como reparten contra los homegrowns,
you press the X button on Xbox. I don't know what it is on PlayStation.
There's two X's, but they're in different places, aren't
they? You're planting you're creating a little route that the unit will follow. You can create it very quickly. I know in the footage it's quite deliberately doing it quite slowly to show you how it works. But actually, the points will go down as fast as you can put them down, and you've got proper control over that indicator. It isn't just a set length. Depending on your deflection, it's bigger or longer. And when the camera is zoomed out, it grows longer to allow you to do longer distances in fewer.
Que bueno, cuando pones el cursor lejos para marcar un punto de ruta, que se aleja la cámara para que lo puedas ver mejor. Cuando le das clic en la unidad, se acerca más la cámara a la unidad, etcétera, ¿no? Detalles del gameplay, ¿no? Que más o menos se aparecían en ese vídeo.
Precise control, and then we've coupled that with this little jump select feature that you see, I think, in the video as well, where when you've got a unit selected and you're pointing with this heading indicator to give movement orders, at the same time, if you're pointing towards another friendly unit, you'll see its little banner light up.
So you know which one you're going to be.
Exactly, and even if it's off screen, you get an edge banner, and if you just tap select, you just jump straight to it, so you can whiz around the whole map really quickly, and it's just really. It sounds silly. It's really satisfying.
Do you know what?
It's satisfying. You can still give orders, attack ground orders, or move orders, or you can plot a path onto an enemy, and that will target the enemy. So you've got all of the functionality. It's just in a different way. It is a bit different, but I can't wait to get people to try it.
I am a big RTS player, both from PC and console.
Ahora eso no puedes programar ataques de seleccionas una unidad, seleccionas una ruta y una orden de atacar con otra unidad por otro lado. En lugar de un clásico juego de estrategia en el que seleccionas una unidad tuya y haces clic en el enemigo para que el ataque vaya directo a por él, pues eso, como que haces antes de dar la orden de atacar, pues seleccionar una ruta, ¿no? Un camino para posicionarte. Eso está guay. Lo estamos viendo aquí en el caso de los Vanguard Hunters, ¿no? Cómo los mandan a colocarse en un punto determinado para dispararles de ahí, o este tío acercarse a sus unidades para darle apoyo y demás.
If I say to myself, quite cool, you can just toggle between them at any point. So
oh wow!
You can be.
I didn't know that part actually.
Well, there cool. You can be giving a unit these direct step orders, and if you want to give a particularly huge distance order, or just look as well as giving an order and look around with the camera, you can just toggle reticle mode, and then the camera detaches with the unit still selected. You can move the camera around, and you can still give move orders to the. You actually still need to use a form of jump select with that mode by holding down, I think, the select button and pointing towards squads and adding them to your selection.
I can't wait for players to get hold of this in the beta.
Yeah, absolutely.
And give it a go. And again, feedback will be great.
Las imágenes que estamos viendo, no sé si es de Xbox o bueno, que están jugando con un mando de Xbox en PC, ¿no? Pues vemos ahí el LB, RT, los botones del mando de Xbox.
I know that some of internally in our playtesting, some of our best players
ya como cargan los Vanguard Raptors.
Direct step method. And a gamepad over a mouse and keyboard.
Maybe that's how Sally beat me.
Mouse and keyboard's great, and it's razor precise, and it always will be. And we just tried to get the gamepad as close as possible.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to change the way mouse and keyboard worked really.
But it's inclusivity. So anyone can play any way they want.
Exactly.
So you can play on a control pad on console. You can play on mouse and keyboard.
Precisamente está hablando de eso, de que tú puedes jugar como te dé la gana, con un mando, con el teclado.
Yes. That's what we're aiming for, so that everyone can play an RTS together.
Everyone's equally deserving of.
Se ha optimizado el control, por obvio, ¿no? Para que el manejo con cualquier opción sea
óptimo. All right. So if you've just joined us, well, where have you been? But welcome. What we're going to do, I'm going to do a real brief recap, I think, Phil, just in case people join. And I want to play the trailer again. So if you have just joined us, welcome to our first ever live stream of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Realms of Ruin. We have been joined by the wonderful Philippa and Sandy from the development team.
Vale, así que terminado la Faction Focus de Stormcast, se supone que habrá otro directo de que tendremos un Faction Focus de los Orcs. Y ahora van a volver a enseñar el trailer.
The Stormcast Eternals are mortal heroes that have been transformed into supernatural warriors in the forges of Azir. Each the embodiment of Sigmar's storm. They are the God King's wrath made manifest, and they were created for one single purpose: outright war. While they may be few, when a Stormcast Eternal falls, they are brought back time and time again to fight anew. In Warhammer Age of Sigmar Realms of Ruin, you will command the mighty Stormcast Eternals in their quest to defend an ailing Dawnbringer settlement from unrelenting raids by the wicked and savage Orc Krulboys. Sigrun, commander of a detachment of Stormcast Eternals, embarks on a perilous mission to the wild and savage swamps of Gur. She seeks to obtain a great artifact that will help them turn the tides against the Orc menace. The Stormcast Eternals are a robust, elite army that excel when fighting in a combined force of frontline fighters and ranged attackers. Their access to a variety of different troops and reliance on well-rounded forces requires a hefty investment of resources to hold their ground. The steadfast Stormcast Eternal heroes have abilities to heal and resurrect fallen units, or lead from the front with devastating charges and powers that call down the storm to obliterate enemies. As commander, you'll have access to a wide range of units, including Annihilators, formidable and elite soldiers, emboldened by impervious thunderstrike armor and devastating meteoric hammers. Prosecutors, warrior heralds of Sigmar, who soar through the battlefield at incredible speeds, unhindered by the grasping swamps of Gur. And finally, the mighty Stormdrake Guard, dragon-riding knights capable of annihilating enemy hordes with lance, claw, and righteous wormflame. Issuing the right commands is just as crucial as the squads you bring to the battlefield. When playing with a gamepad, you'll have access to an innovative control scheme that gives you the tactical flexibility you need to conquer your enemies. With the direct step system, you'll enjoy the immediacy of traditional real-time strategy controls mapped onto a controller. Issue orders, snap instantly between squad selections, and use a classic RTS camera view to survey distant forces and objectives. Then experience the pounding heart of battle up close and execute precise commands as the clash intensifies. Direct Step enables you to quickly respond to the conflict as it evolves, activating squad abilities, creating groups of squads, and balancing a war across multiple fronts. The Stormcast Eternals are just one of 4 factions coming to Warhammer Age of Sigmar Realms of Ruin.
All right, fantastic. Saw a couple of questions that are in there. Latest one, can you get married in the game? I don't think that's the feature we've added.
Me parece que esto va a ser van a hacer unas preguntas más y parece que con esto se finaliza este stream.
Yeah, but there were some other questions in there. So, is it crossplay?
Yes.
It is crossplay.
¿Es juego cruzado?
So
Sí.
how the spells work?
Yeah, so our spells, we fold them into the abilities. Because otherwise it would get too complicated.
Que los spells, los hechizos sean habilidades.
So, that's how they work. Yeah.
And was there another question that I missed? Or did I get them all that I saw apart from the marriage one, which I noticed? And I also noticed someone said about the awkward silence. It was because I threw Adam under the bus about playing the trailer again. So props to producer Adam. But once again,
there was also a question about resources.
Oh yeah,
abilities using resources.
Yes, the abilities using
resources. Preguntan sobre las habilidades utilizando recursos.
Resources. So, oh yes, can units retreat? They can retreat. Yes.
I think
Se te puede retirar las peleas.
In there, yeah, you can retreat units.
Yeah, and it's honestly it's probably the most used function of my army, as Sally will tell you, because we just ran away everywhere. There's a runaway attack. It's like a bit of Monty Python. Run away, run away. Yeah. All right, look, there's loads more we need to cover off, and I'm sure we will do, but I'm going to recap really quickly. What you've just seen there is the faction focus video for the incredible Stormcast Eternals. Just one of 4 factions coming to Age of Sigmar Realms of Ruin later on this year. So we will have more shows for you. We'll feature more factions, I'm sure. But this is a real-time strategy coming to both Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5 and PC. It is cross-play. It's incredible. It features mouse and keyboard support on your desired platform and controller on your desired platform. We've got more to share and more to come.
Y que tienen eso, que tienen más que compartir, que habrá lo que decíamos antes, no más fati un poco estas 2 facciones, que habrá 4 facciones, no voy a repetir el sorteo, pues si aún no se ha enterado, pues que participe ya por favor, para que no lo repitan más. Y nada, que iremos viendo novedades de este juego hasta que salga más adelante este año, no tenemos fecha. Hombre, y calcular que si la beta abierta es en julio, quizás en octubre por ahí podamos ver el juego. Normalmente cuando hacen una beta abierta suele haber un par de ellas normalmente. Y de la primera beta se depende del juego, ¿no? Puede pasar un mes o puede pasar medio año. Yo calculo por ahí, en torno a octubre. Y que buscan mucho el balance de qué es lo que está roto, qué es lo que hay que equilibrar y demás. Que esa es la razón de las betas. Y nada. Que muchas gracias a todos, que muy majos, ¿no? Pues bueno, poquito a poquito ya vamos sabiendo más de este juego, ¿no? Bye bye. Pues eso. Que el juego ya... Ha sido una sorpresa la presentación en el festival este del Skulls. Tiene buena pinta. Vamos a ver si nos dejan probar la beta. Esperemos que sí, que nos den acceso a la beta, porque la podemos extraer el canal y jugar en el canal, obviamente, pues cuando salga el juego. ¿Sabéis cuándo? Pues en octubre por ahí. Jugar la campaña entera, echar partidas online y demás, ¿no? Tienen el juego muy buena pinta y esto puede venir muy bien para ellos sí más juego de tablero, el juego de mesa. Porque al final estos juegos crean afición, ¿no? Ya pasó con el Dawn of War, pasó con el Total War. Esto tiene muchas reminiscencias del Dawn of War de 40K, que es uno de los juegos más populares de Warhammer. Ojalá se repita el éxito. Visualmente me parece la hostia. A mí visualmente me parece la leche. El rooster que hemos visto de Stormcast, que no se ha visto todo, lo han dicho, se ve bastante potente y hay más. De Kruleboys, bueno, Kruleboys hay lo que hay, ¿no? Los mandamalos, pues no van a poder inventar más unidades de las que ya hay, ¿no? Pero bueno, veremos las dos facciones nuevas. Veremos cómo seguramente, si el juego tiene éxito, sacando más facciones, ampliando rooster de algunos armies. En el caso de Kruleboys va a estar complicado, pero en el caso de Stormcast va a ser sencillo. Igual te puedes sacar luego el Gran Wag para meterte otros tipos de Orruks y demás. Ya veremos. Pero bueno, hasta aquí ha llegado este de directo y nada, espero que os haya gustado, que estéis tan ilusionados como servidor de este Realms of Ruin. Atentos al 7 y al 10 de julio a esta beta abierta. Y nada, pues lo de siempre, muchachos, pues muchísimas gracias a todos por haber seguido este directo. Gracias también a las suscripciones, no me ha dado tiempo a verlas bien. Y nada, nos vemos próximamente en otro directo de DKHM. Así que eso, nos vemos en la siguiente. Un saludo y hasta la próxima.